It's a tremendous chus for me to be here tonight. I'd like to thank the organization Torah Projects Institute for this tremendous Zikar Rabim Kiddush Hashem. As was mentioned to me this evening, I don't think from the time of Matan Torah until today there was a maimid of Yidden have come together to learn, to Mezakeh the Rabbim in the mitzvah of Lo Yisakifu. We have a tremendous gathering specifically of barbers who in their koyach have the opportunity to make change. Somebody was walking along the street and they noticed that $100 bill was floating down. And they thought, that's interesting, $100 bill floating down from Shemayim. So they pick it up and they continue walking. They see another $100 bill floating down. What's going on? And they look up. And they see that in the balcony of one of the nearby apartments, there's a 4-year-old child. And the 4-year-old child is holding his father's wallet. And slowly but surely is emptying the contents of the wallet out onto the street, out in between the bars and floating down. And this person on the street is wondering, what's going to be? At what point is the parent going to realize what's going on? He had a child over here that has a wallet and just dropping dollars after dollars down into the street. And then eventually they wait and they watch. A few moments later, the father peers out the window and he sees his son with the wallet and putting out the money out. And he says, stop, stop, stop. And he takes him back inside. The observer understood from there a tremendous lesson. This 4-year-old child had no idea what he was doing. He didn't realize the koyach. When a person doesn't have the appreciation, when a person doesn't understand with what he's dealing with, so then you can throw $100 out of the window. We have over here tonight a gathering of probably almost 100 or even over 100 barbers in particular, people who have in their hands to make change. They have in their capability something very, very Kosher. And after learning these halachos, we'll see Be'ezah Hashem, things that people thought maybe were horrors, things that people thought, Midas Chasidus, wasn't the Ika Hadin. We'll see Be'ezah Hashem, what the post can speak about this. I had a source of speaking in various places around the world, specifically about this topic and many other topics as well. And normally when I speak in various places in Eretz Yisrael, in England and in America, so I'm normally speaking to the bochrim, I'm speaking to boys, I'm speaking to people that sit in the barber's chair. Tonight I have the source to speak to the people on the other side. The people that can have the koyach to make change. The Ben Ish Chai, when he talks about the Maila of Beis HaRosh, so the Ben Ish Chai writes that every Yid, as was mentioned a few moments ago, that every Yid has to have 2 simonim to differentiate between him and a goy. And he writes that the 2 simonim are Bris Milah and Beis HaRosh. Bris Milah is covered and Beis HaRosh is golden. It's seen, it's revealed, everybody sees it. It's one of the simonim that a person has to differentiate him and the goyim. The Imrei Emes was one time in Eretz Yisrael. He visited Eretz Yisrael. He went to a kollel and he saw that the kollel were learning Masechtas Peah. So he went to the Olim and said, Rabbi Yisai, let me ask you a shayla. You're learning Masechtas Peah. We know Masechtas Peah is be'ikah dealing with the halachos of leaving a corner of the field for the aniyim. Why is it that we have to leave only one corner, whereas the Beis HaRosh is 2? So the Pnei Menachem once answered in the following manner. He said that the Mishnah tells us that the exception to the rule is if you have a Rishus HaRabim or various, if you go Rishus HaRabim in the middle, then you have to leave on the other side also. Memela said to Pnei Menachem that our faces, Yadua, Yisal Salanta, to Rishus HaRabim. And therefore we have to leave both sides of the Peis. We'll go Be'ezah Hashem into the halachas as they appear in various places. We'll talk about haircuts and halacha and how they apply to the practical lamaisa. But before we start, there's a halacha. The halacha in Nation Aleph. Anyone that learns on Shabbos, you see this halacha, it's unbelievable. When you go through the Chofetz Chaim, you go through the Mishnah Berurah, sometimes you see the Mishnah Berurah is writing, but sometimes you see that he's screaming. And right over here, it's clear to see that the Chofetz Chaim was tremendously bothered by this inyan. And this Indian is Peyas HaRosh. And it's interesting, we don't have a Chofetz Chaim, unfortunately, on Yeridea. We don't have a Mishnah Berurah on Choshen Mishpah. We have an Orach Chaim. Whenever we find that the Chofetz Chaim deals with situations of halacha and other areas of Shulchan Aruch, we have to chap it. And over here, the Mishnah Berurah, the Chofetz Chaim writes how careful a person has to be. We make the mistake and we think the Peyas HaRosh, I get this all the time. I speak in places all over the world and boys come over to me and say, what are you going to tell me, Rabbi? I have to grow these long payas behind my ears, that's what this shir is all about. And I say, no, it's got zero connection whatsoever. There might be some shaykhs, there might be some kind of a connection, but that's not these halachas. And the Mishnah Berurah writes that very clearly in the Be'er Halacha right over here. The Mishnah Berurah writes that what people call the Peyas HaRosh as being extra long hair behind the ears, that's not the pshat. The pshat is what we're going to be dealing with Be'ez Hashem tonight, are the actual halachas that apply to any single person that has a haircut. The barber that gives the haircut, and the person in the chair that receives the haircut as well. Now it's interesting to note that this halacha is not something that just came about now. This is unbelievable. There's a Tashbatz. The Tashbatz writes that this was something that was Mamash Makkah Medina. This is something that it was a long time ago a problem. The Chofetz Chaim also, the Kuntras, the Beres Hodom also writes, and this is something that people unfortunately don't know. And once the pshat that it's become hefka, it's become something that's mamish hefkerus. Nobody knows what's going on. So, Be'ez Hashem, tonight we're going to fix that. We'll start from the Makar, we'll start from the Pasuk in the Torah, and the question obviously is, when you learn the Pasuk, and you learn the Gemara Be'ez Hashem, as we'll see in Makkos, what's the pshat? Lo yisakifu pa'asoyishem. What does it mean? Very difficult to understand the halakha straight from the Pasuk and even from the Gemaras itself. We know the Gemara tells us, Tana Rabbanon, Pa'as Roishai, corner of the head, Soif Roishai, Fet the Gemara Kasha, the Ezet Soif Roishai, Zahamash Vatzidav La'achoyre Yozdom from Bedachte. That means, according to some most Rishonim, that if you equal off the area from, you have the hair, we'll see diagrams in a moment, from the top of the forehead, from the corner of the forehead, all the way behind the ear, that's where the issue is. And when people learn this Gemara, even if you learn it with all the Rishonim, it's difficult to understand. I was called into a kollel in the Mei Yeshiva in Yerushalayim. They asked me just to give us a pshat. We're learning Masechtas Makkos. Give us a pshat in the Gemara. You learn the Rishonim, but we have to see it Lamaisa. The Beis Yosef Kiyodua in Siman Shin Yud Ches writes in Sif Yud, when he talks about the halachas of what the Gemara says Ambati, all sorts of interesting visions and klisheni. The Beis Yosef says, well, we don't have pictures. And if we don't have pictures, we can't understand the halacha properly. And the Beis Yosef says we have to be machmeh because we don't have pictures. So I remember I discussed sitting many hours with Hagoyin HaGodol, Rabbi Zul Orbach Shlita, and we went through these slides, and we went through many of the halachas. And what I'm saying tonight, Be'ez Hashem, is Al Haskoma of Hagoyin HaGodol, Rabbi Zul Orbach Shlita, that was extremely happy when I showed him what I did, and I showed him exactly what we're going to be presenting. He was extremely happy because people have to see it l'maisa. People have to see it in picture form. So let's see roughly what this means. Roughly what we have over here is, if you look at the picture, so we have, imagine if a person made an imaginary line from one corner of the head to the other side of the other corner of the head, as you can see quite clearly. That is what the Gemara seems to say, that we're going to equal it out one to the other. That's what a person has to be careful. So for example, if you take a situation like this, you would see that a person is equaling off the top of the hair all the way down. He has this imaginary line, which we'll see Be'ez Hashem exactly where this line is. And this is going to be the line that we're going to be learning the halachas of Peyas HaRosh. And we'll see this in more detail in a moment. And now you can imagine you have people of all sorts of different hairlines. Everyone has a different hairline. The question is, what do you have with somebody that's got a higher hairline or a lower hairline? So there's a question is like this. Okay, we'll get back to that in a moment. One of the tainas that I hear all the time, and again when I deal with Bochum, this is exactly what they tell me all the time, and they come back from the barber and they say, "My Shem Yerachim, what have you just done to yourself?" He says, "What do you mean? I don't know. I mean, the common excuse is I don't speak Hebrew." So I mean, it's like, what do I know? I don't know. I don't speak Hebrew. But it wasn't me, it was the barber. So we know the Gemara tells us, Echad HaMakis, Echad HaNikid is no ikesh. There's a shayla in the Taz if it's considered to be yesh by mamish, ain't by mamish, a Messiah. Is it cool that you're helping when you move the head, you don't move the head? But on Kolponim L'maisa, whether you're the person giving the haircut or receiving the haircut, you're included in the halacha, and therefore have to be very, very careful to make sure that it's done up the halacha. If we continue with the time of the Issa, which we just mentioned a moment ago, it was mentioned before, the Torah writes, mitzvah melachein. It's a mitzvah d'ubayni shalayla. We have to do this. The Rambam, Kiyodua writes, the Beis Yosef talks about it, about Riches and the Talsik of Nalef and Yehudeis and the Kupei Aleph writes, what's the nafkamina between the Torah and the Rambam? The nafkamina would be what happens if, for example, Eimas HaMelech, the Melech comes over and tells you must do something that's going to be over on the Yisrael Kifu. So he writes that according to the Rambam it will be Mutter, according to the Torah it will be Asa. And the Tazvaita makes an nafkamina anyway, the halacha is we paskin obviously that it's mitzvahs melech, and therefore there's absolutely no exception to the rule except for obviously the koach nefesh. Okay, so there's a question. What's included in the Issa? What is the Issa of Lois HaKifu? So we have a Shitas HaRambam. As you can see, the Rambam holds that the Issa, there's many other Rishonim, there's a Chinuch, there's a Ra'ah, there's a Mitzvah, come other Rishonim that hold that the Issa is a Ta'ar. And the Issa is a raise, that the Issa of Lois HaKifu is a Shaykh. The Gemara, not going into the whole Sugya, but the Rambam seems to learn that it's only a Ta'ar. That means if you take a razor, and a razor around where the payas are, wherever that may be, that's the Issa of Lois HaKifu. According to the Rambam, if you didn't use a razor, you went over on the Issa. The Rosh and many other Rishonim, there's a Rash, but there's many Rishonim hold no. We're talking about Kain down. Again, we can talk about how this fits into the Gemara, but that's what I was suggest at this moment of time. The Rosh learns Kain Ta'ar. Kain Ta'ar means if it's similar to that. That means anything that fits in to a similarity to a tar, to a razor, but even if it's not a razor, according to the Rosh, will be included. Shulchan Aruch Lahalacha is Choishesh V'Shitas HaRosh and Kuf B'Aleph Sif Gimel. The Shulchan Aruch very clearly is Choishesh V'Shitas HaRosh, and therefore, if that's the psak of the Shulchan Aruch, is that Gedarkei, a psak of the Shulchan Aruch means to us that anything that's a kein tar, anything that's included in a razor, will be included in this halacha. And therefore, even though it's true, a razor may affect deeper into the actual root of the hair than scissors or a clipping machine or anything else, since we paskin like the Rosh, like the Shulchan Aruch paskins, it really doesn't make a difference. It doesn't make a difference if you're using a razor or using a haircut machine or using scissors. In the area that's considered to be the Peyas HaRosh, that's going to be the problem. And therefore we have to define, amongst many things, where are the Peyas HaRosh? So let's speak, before we get onto that, if we paskin like the Rosh, what's Kein Tar? What's the lowest? What's the minimum? What's the lowest shear that a person can do in order to be still mutter? What can it be? So again, we can talk about all the Rishonim and how it comes in the Maisa. There's a Shitas HaRambam, the Gemara in Nozeh, Igdei Lochov Rosha Li'ikroi, which they say is there 5 millimeters. That's what the Rambam holds. There's a Shach, there's a Be'alocha, Chachmas Odom, it's a Shulchan Aruch, amongst many others. Somach Lebasa Kein Tar. Now there's a question what that means. Somach Lebasa Kein Tar, many hold that it means that you're going quite close to the skin. Now if that's true, we don't know, it's not clear exactly the shear of what the shortest and minimum amount of Peyas HaRosh is. L'maisa, a famous Ukideiga, Achsam Sofer, and Yehudeis, Reish Lamates, amongst others, and again, the Psak L'maisa, Rabbi Zul Orbach, from Gedolei Poskim, from his father, Rabbi Shlomo Zalman, from his Shver, Rabbi Yashiv Zatzal, and many other Gedolei Poskim, as he told me, is we paskin L'maisa like Ukideiga, Achsam Sofer, and therefore the minimum shear that a person has to be careful, that can still be okay, and this doesn't make a difference where the payas are. A person can go around his whole head, as long as he's got a half a centimeter, 3 to 6 millimeters, which according to most clipping machines, not of the beard, but of the actual head, a haircut machine, not a trimmer of a beard, just to be clear, it has to be a haircutting machine. Of a haircutting machine is a number 2. And number 2 fits that 100%, and you've got no shaila. There is a shaila if you go a little bit lower and 1.5, which I don't want to go too much into detail because then you already have the differences between the machines, which we're dealing with shailas over the raisas. We'll see Be'ez Hashem, and therefore we have to be careful. So the Maisa, what comes out before we get onto where the Peyas HaRosh, which is obviously the complicated subject, is we have a shade of a half a centimeter, number 2 on a haircutting machine, which means that if a person would take a haircutting machine and go around the head with chilava and soif everywhere, and it would cut, there would be no shaila whatsoever. However, and I might mention this now, we'll get back to this in a moment, Be'ez Hashem. And I get this all the time when I gave a group of balabatim in England. So they said, what do you think of us? We get a haircut number 3, 3.5, maybe a 2.5. Like, we don't have any shaylas. We don't have such a low haircut. So you've got to be careful. And we'll speak about this, and a barber knows this very, very well. And I've spoken about this, and this sometimes is a shock to a lot of people. And that is around the ear. Often a person will go around, maybe with scissors, maybe a haircutting machine without the guard, maybe even things more than that, and making it smooth around the ear. So we'll talk about that in a moment. So even if it's true that the shear is that, but you have to be careful in any area that may be considered to be the Peyas HaRosh to make sure that it is not under that minimum shear. Okay. So we have some 3 areas that we have to discuss. We have area number 1, the imaginary line that we're going to be drawing on every customer and every person that we give a haircut to, or ourselves, to make sure that we're not going to be over is to make sure we have point number 1, which is by the forehead, point number 2, B, which is right by the top of the ear area, and point C, which is by maybe the jawbone area down there where the beard begins. Where is that cutoff point? So we have 3 points that we have to discuss, each one separately, and Be'ez Hashem afterwards will understand fully where are the Peyas HaRosh to know where we have to be careful. So the question is, where do we start from? So we have over here a very, very famous picture. It's called Orchos Rabbeinu from the stipler. Now the stipler drew this picture. This picture on the right was drawn by the stipler. Kiyodua, the stipler Zatzal actually gave haircuts to the Chazon Ish, and in order to show clearly the halachas of what's mutter and what's asa, the stipler drew this picture when he gave haircuts to the Chazon Ish. And this was the picture that he drew to understand what's Peyas HaRosh. Now, it's a little bit difficult to differentiate exactly what's mutter, what's also exactly where he's coming from. So they did what I call an art scroll version of the picture, and they drew the picture of the left. And the picture of the left, they took actually to Chaim Kanievsky Shlita, and they asked him if this is what his father meant, and he was masking that this is the picture. So the picture on the left, L'maisim, is the psak that most Gedolei Pais can go with, which again, Makaro came from the stipler drawing the picture. And this is the picture that the Gedolei Pais can follow in order to understand and properly know these halachas. So let's go according to that to the following halachas. We'll start with number 1, the uppermost point of the forehead. Where exactly is that? How to calculate that and work out where to draw the first point of the imaginary line. So for example, many people have different foreheads. You have people with a high forehead, some people with a low hairline. Everyone is different. What do? So Yad HaKtana, one of the Gedolei Achronim, wrote the following. The Yad HaKtana wrote that when you're dealing with this halacha, we go each person according to him. Right? This is Hilchos Tefillin, regarding where the shaloi should be. But again, over here, the Yad HaKtana writes every person a kafi what he has. That means if a person has a high forehead, he'll go the top over there. If he's got a low one, then he'll go over there. It all depends on each person where they have. So the first question a person has to ask is, number 1, the point where to draw the first dot of our imaginary line will be the uppermost corner where the hair starts protruding down to become the Peyas HaRosh. That will be number 1. So you can imagine in other people, in various people, sometimes it starts high. It depends on every single person, may be different. Now you have, for example, some pictures like this. Now you have Hasidim that, Hanami very makpid on the Aviza or Pizoya, maybe to shave off the rest of the hair except the Mokim HaPeyas. But L'maisa, I do believe that this is not pshat with what the Arizal had in mind. And this fellow over here, Gavaldig HaPeyas over here, but if you don't start from the actual corner, as you can see from the top area over there, and you have less than a 2 in that area, so it's wonderful that you have the extra payas over there. Maybe it's a Tosfos and Nozim and Aleph on the base that talks about this by Avichas in the middle of the Tosfos. But Al Koponim, in the Rizal, definitely he wasn't Yaitza, and as L'maisa, according to Roy Poiskin, Gedolei Yisrael, and for sure the Rishonim and Achronim, this person was even an Issa, the Raisa of Loisa Kifu, maybe Kama V'Kama Pa'omid, whether on the barber or the person and the person that was in the chair at the time. Right, so we go by the uppermost corner where the hair begins of the forehead. That's where we're going to be starting from. That's point A, where we will draw our imaginary line. Or for example, If you didn't like the Hasidic example, we have the literature example over here. Is again a short haircut. As Tinis, I had to say, I stopped looking already at people with their haircuts when I learned these halachas. I push it. I just can't look anymore at these things. Like I can't look at where they put their mezuzahs and halachah, where they put their flesh pots in the kitchen. So all of a sudden, I can't stop looking at people with their haircuts go, because unfortunately, like the Chofetz Chaim, like the Tashbats wrote, "Zamakas Saladinitz Geheft." What's the pshat? So Be'ez Hashem, we're going to change that. But you see people that get a very low haircut, and once again, less than a number 2 in every other area is fine. But once you're dealing with the pace of the Be'ez Harosh, as you can see from the picture on the right and the left as well, so obviously you've got to be very, very careful on when it comes to that. Now this is a very, very common china. I get this all the time. I'll have people knocking on my front door, and they'll bring their 3-year-old child the day before the Upsha, the day before the Chalaka, and they'll say, show me what to do when I go to the barber tomorrow. Where can I cut? They're going to, Meiron, like Bohema, I'm going to do it myself. How does it work? What happens? So apart from the regular halachas, we have an extra halacha. And the halacha is, what do you do with baby hair? Now often this is very, very common by young kids, is they have the baby hair, and the baby hair will often fall away after a while. You see by a young baby that they have hair in various places, even on the forehead, that eventually goes away. So when you have a young child, a 3-year-old boy, that you're giving a haircut to, and he has this baby hair, so the halacha, and again, without going into arichas and all the poskim and where it comes from, just to be mekatzer, to understand the halacha clearly, is anything over the eye areas. You can see from the picture, you've got that dotted line. Anything that's over the eye area is absolutely fine. It's called baby hair, and therefore you can actually take that off under number 2 without any problem whatsoever. When you hit the end of the eye, obviously on top of that area, that's where you have the halacha that you have to be extremely careful to make sure, obviously, that you don't do less than a number 2. So again, you have this in different areas, that kids come with all sorts of hair, and again, the baby hair and the area over the eye would be okay without any problem whatsoever. Okay, so here's another example. You have somebody that once again took a very short haircut and got okay on point number A, but he didn't realize that it goes all the way down. He thought it starts from somewhere else, and obviously that's going to be an issue. So that's point A. Point A we understand, I think that's the simplest of all the points, is really to understand the top uppermost corner where the hair begins, going down towards the forehead. That's where it begins. That's where the Be'ez Harosh begins. B. So what is B? So this is where it gets complicated. Those that learn the Sugya in the Gemaras and the Rishonim, in the Gemara Makkos. So the Gemara tells us, L'mala min ha'oizen somach. The Rishonim tell us, L'mala min ha'oizen somach la'oizen. Very, very unclear. The Shulchan Aruch in Yeridei Kupei Aleph uses a very similar notion as well, and it comes from a Ritva and others as well, that we don't exactly know what this means. L'mala min ha'oizen somach la'oizen. So how are we going to go to define that? So if we go back to the picture that the Stipler Zatzal drew, that again over here, the Ark Scroll, the Reb Chaim Kanievsky was masking, this was the version, is you can see quite clearly that the Stipler was makfid that l'mala min ha'oizen somach la'oizen means the top of the ear at the uppermost part of the ear. The hair that starts sprouting from the top of the ear inwards, inclining into the ear, that's included in Be'ez Harosh. Now what goes on behind that, we've got no problem. We've got no problem with a person taking a very short haircut anywhere behind the ear, from the top, sliding down towards the back of the head. So we've got no problem going over there with something, anything that's lower than a 2, that would be fine. The moment you hit the point of the top of the ear, and you incline inwards, downwards into where the faces and the eyes are, that's where you know is the Be'ez Harosh. So here we have pretty much, quite clear, we have a Hagdorah of the first imaginary line that we're going to be drawing on a person is from, as we mentioned, from the forehead all the way down to the top of the ear. This is going to be point A and point B, that we have to know that lower than that area and beyond is considered to be the Be'ez Harosh, and therefore have to be very careful not to go minimum than a number 2 in that area, including, as we'll mention, when you go around with a trimmer or scissors or any other type of instrument, and you may want to make it look nice for the person who's getting the haircut, so you have to be very careful of that area. Now here is interesting, the person on the right, we couldn't actually ask him if I could take this in Rishus to take the picture, because unfortunately he was over in Issa Dorais, as you can see, so it had to be a very discreet picture taking. But unfortunately, again, he might have got it right on the top area, but he didn't realize where it goes to around the ear. There's a very, very common machal that I've seen personally myself. I actually know somebody that discussed it with one of the big rabbis in America, who said that he doesn't know what to do with this. This is a major shayla, a major problem that unfortunately the Hasidim need chesed in. And therefore a person has to be careful when you do the area around the ear to make sure that whole area over there is properly taken care of, to make sure that it's not lower than the minimum shear. Once again, it can happen even down there. You can do a shaving over there, which obviously is going to be an issue, which is going to be a problem. A person has to be extremely careful of that. Now there is a shayla. We just mentioned that we've come up with this interesting halacha that you have to have an imaginary line. But maybe it's straight, maybe it's round. That's the shayla. So there is a shayla in the poskim where this actually comes from. The Yad Ktana talks about it. The Chazon Ish talks about it. The Chazon Ish wants to time it's a hidden mitzvah. It's a hidden mitzvah. The Yad Ktana, maybe others bring in Arizal, which again is a tremendous arichas, with the Arizal right shlish of the metz of the shayla is where exactly is the third of the forehead. But for whatever reason it is, it's a hidden mitzvah like the Chazon Ish says. Some people have a minute that way. I tell people it's double pashut. When a person is in a situation when he's a shayla, he's over an issa d'oraisa, so you don't leave it right to the edge. You don't put a fence right at the end of the Empire State Building, right to the end. You go a little bit back just to make sure. So it's the same thing over here. That we have to go a little bit higher just to make sure that we're okay. We're dealing with the shayla of the d'oraisa, as we mentioned, according to all the Rishonim. We're dealing with the issa d'oraisa, maybe on every single hair that you're dealing with. If that's the case, a little bit higher, I'm not saying you have to go round, but a little bit higher is definitely something, if you're going to be taking lesson number 2 in the area on top, to make sure that you don't enter those problems. And point number C. Point number C is the area on the bottom, especially for somebody that trims on the area on the bottom. What does he do? Where's the cutoff point of the payas harosh? And this actually is a very interesting point. And when I speak about this, people have a little bit of a different idea of what they thought, and all of a sudden what the halacha actually is. So let's see the Maisa, what the halacha is. So here we have halacha. The Rishonim say as follows: the zokin. What's the zokin? A zokin is lemata min ha'oisin, which means a zokin, without getting involved in the halachas of shaving and beards, that's not the Indian tonight. But a zokin basically doesn't have the same halachas as the payas harosh. When we deal with the payas harosh, where is the end of the payas harosh? Where is the end of the pair that we can say, okay, here's the cutoff point, here's the end, now we don't have a problem anymore. So the Zokan at the Rishonim says, Lamala min ha'oizen. Now the question is, what does this mean? So the Rishonim once again tell us, as a ritzvah mufurish, Mokim shelechi atachton yoytze misparit shon. And again, once again, you learn the Rishonim, you learn the Achronim on the Sugya. What's the pshat? Mokim shelechi atachton yoytze misparit shon. Where is that lemaisa? So I did a little bit of research. We see the Flois HaBoira, the golden Zach, the Rebbeinu Shalom created the world, and you see how it stems the Rishonim as a Moedik Azach. So if you look at the human skull, so there's a lot of names over here that I don't think I can pronounce, but you do have over here the zygomatic arch. Right? Let me call it the jaw, whatever you want to call it. So the question is, where is the Lechi HaTachton Yoytze Misbarid Shom? You can see quite clearly, here is the ear. Here is the whole of the ear, and next to it is the jawbone. So there is a mistake which I've encountered in almost every single place that I've spoken around the world, literally. And that is, people tell me, you go by the bone. There's this halacha, you go by the bone. Wherever you feel the bone, that's where the halacha is, and you can continue and do whatever you want over there. Again, without getting involved in shaving. So unfortunately, I didn't find it in the Rishonim, in the Gemara, in the Achronim, in the Poskim. There is absolutely no makar to any bone. No makar whatsoever. And in fact, it's completely wrong. And I'll bring you a raya. Simple raya. Try this one yourself whenever you want. You go to that bone that sticks out that everybody knows is the one that, the bone, and you move up and down your jaw, you will feel no movement. If that's the case, you have no shaykhs to mokum that the lechi atachton yoytze misparit shom, which is for sure talking about this. What you're actually touching is the area over here, is the zygomatic arch, the green area on top of the jaw. That's what you're feeling. That's got no connection whatsoever, because it's clear from the Rishonim that it has to move. And if it has to move, and when you feel the jaw, that bone that sticks out that doesn't move, then automatically you're not feeling the right one. So therefore, what are we going to say? So again, all the Rishonim speak about this, and if you look carefully in the Achronim, they explain it this way. I'll repeat the Rishonim, that we're dealing with the area that's on bottom of this little U shape. The bottom of the U, that's considered to be where the Issa, where the Lechi HaTachton Yoytze Misparid Shom. And how do you figure out this one? Rav Moshe Zatzal used to tell people to do this l'maisa. This is how Rav Moshe Paskin, when someone would come to him with a shayla, so he told them very simple. feel where it moves. So once again, if you take the bone that everyone knows sticks out and it doesn't move, goes slightly down and slightly in, all of a sudden you will feel movement. And that's going to be the area that we mentioned before. And we're going back to the area, if you see that the bottommost area that you have over here is actually directly opposite. It's right exactly next to where the whole of the ear is, which fits exactly into the Rishonim and in Pshat and Shulchan Aruch and Yoredeis and Guf Be'alef that speaks about this. That the actual Mokum, Lechi HaTachton, is right next to the whole of the ear. So in Gadlus of seeing how the Rebbeinu Shalom created the world and seeing what the halacha tells us to do, it's perfect. And therefore that's going to be the mokim. So you have people that have high, you have people that have low. What's the halacha l'maisa? So halacha l'maisa goes as follows. There's a tshuva in the Eretz Tzvi, very interesting tshuva, and if you have a look at it, it's a wonderful tshuva what he writes. He says that he has a raya that it's the middle of the whole of the ear. That's the mokim where he tainas is going to be the mokim shalechi atachton yosef inspired, and therefore that's the end of the Be'ez HaRosh. What's one of his rayas? He brings common rayas. One of the rayas that he brings is that if you see a person that beard starts to go white and his hair remains black, ufaket, his hair starts to go white and his beard remains black, where is that cutoff point? Where is it going to happen? In the middle of the hole. Because he tainas that you see clearly from there that one is beard hair and one is the hair that's on the head. That's the Eretz Tzvi. Tremendous, one of the Gedolei Achronim, but that's what he writes. The Maisa, most poskim don't go with that. And most poskim go, but as we mentioned, Kosher, Pshat, and Shulchan Aruch, and this is basically what Moshe told people, and that is the bottom area of the hole. The bottom area of the hole is, as you can see from here, it's number 2. That's Pshat and the Rishonim and the Shulchan Aruch and the Maisa and the Tzias of what a person feels, and which is what Moshe mentioned, the Maisa told people to do. That is what the poskim hold. However, I remember Rabbi Zil Obach told me B'Shem Yishveru and Yashiv Zatzal, amongst others as well, Moshe Sternberg Shlita, that it goes a little bit lower there, and again there are rayas that we're not going into at this moment of time, that it goes all the way to the earlobe, the soft ear area of the ear. That's where the hairline, and that's where the Be'ez HaRosh goes over there. And Al Pi Kabbalah, we can talk about all sorts of other areas that you're not getting into. What I do want to discuss, which definitely the Chavetz Chaim and the Tashbach would have seen this, they would have pointed this as Bi Makas and Medina. I was called into a school in Manchester, and afterwards into 2 schools in Beit Shemesh, who asked me specifically to come to speak about this site, which is talking about, I don't know if you call it here in America this way, but in England we call it the pencil Be'ez. It's a tremendous mark, and I've seen it in so many places that Rahman al-Islam, we should be Zoich Be'ez Hashem to change that. But the Ma'aseh Bochum unfortunately don't realize. They don't realize the severity of the arena, the Choyma Advorim, that we know what the Be'ez HaRosh are, we know where it starts, we know where it ends. And if a person takes that area and he shaves it off, and obviously less than a 2, which is exactly what they're doing for the fashionable, they're exactly where it comes from in the belt. But the Maisa, that seems to be the makkah. We have to go with fashion, we have to go with the Goyim, which is exactly what the Rambam understood, Pshat, the Veda Zorah. And therefore a person has to be told, you have the koyach to change this, you have the koyach to tell whoever it is that comes to you and asks you. I was in a barber in Yerushalayim, Kodesh, and a fellow came over, and he asked, I don't know if he was from, not from, and I asked him to do something which wasn't even like this, and the barber said, absolutely not, you want to go do it somewhere else, and I can't do it for you. He had that koyach, he had the power, he said, I'm not doing it, I will lose my parnasa from this one person, the Rebbeinu Shalom will definitely give a person back much more than he ever had from that, from saving from this halacha. So this is what we call the pencil payers. In fact, I saw a bocha like this. This is a bocha that comes from actually a very from home, very from yeshiva. And he did a haircut like this. If you can see, he did exactly that. In the area that's pointed out, the mama shaved it off. So I told him, listen, maybe it's a schus amongst other things, obviously tshuva, but as one of the schusim you can have, I'll take a picture, we'll be mezakah the rabbin with this picture. And he was masking, okay, take the picture, obviously she can't see my face, and therefore, Be'ez Hashem, you should have a kapora. But the Maisi understood afterwards the severity of it. He had a bacha one time that did also, he actually shaved one area of his head, and he figured, well, if I've got one, I may as well continue to do the other one, which is debatable, covered abriyas, which we're not going into now. Said, but upon the Maisi, he realized what he did, and he asked me, please include my picture on your slideshow to be mezakah the rabbin, to make sure and realize that people don't get in the same situation. So again, it can be a common thing. A person can have a lot of pious around the ear, but if you miss the area on the bottom over there, it's all included in Be'ez HaRosh and has to be watched out. Now this is something which a person has to be very careful. The barbers, once again, have beyond them, they can really be koyach, affect this in a tremendous way. And I speak about this every spring when I speak about the people who don't have such short haircuts, with payers, not payers, But generally, anybody that has a haircut is nichlal in the following slide, this slide. And that is the barber, as you know, will go around the area of the ear to make it look neat. And it's nice to look neat and tidy. And a person has to look neat and tidy. But al kaponi, when a person goes around the ear, we have to watch out. The area behind the ear we've got no problem with. You can do it, that's absolutely fine. Make it as short, make it as neat as possible. If you want to do that, that's gewaldig. But once you enter the mokim, as we see l'mala min ha'oizen, as we saw from the picture of the stapler, from the uppermost part of the ear and sliding down into the mokim of the face, that's included in Peyas HaRosh. That means in that area is the area if you take off the guard of the trimmer, or you take scissors or any other instrument that you use, and you go around there to make it look neat, you have this issue. So you have to be careful. If you use the scissors, maybe use a comb to make sure that that area doesn't go too short. Maybe use a guard on the trimmer to make sure that that area is not affected in a number less than a number 2, and therefore to make sure that you won't over on the Issa L'Oraisa of L'Oraisa Kifa. We have another thing as well, very interesting. Again, I don't know exactly what they call it over here, but where I come from, they call it the old plates. What's the halacha with the area of the hair that's by the cheek? What's the halacha? So there's very, very interesting. In the Bach, in Yeridei Simon Kuf Pei Aleph, the Bach brings a korban aron. And the korban aron brings, again, amongst many, many writers, which we haven't got time to be ma'irichin to go into all the details. And when I discussed it once with Goyim Rafalk, Shlita from Gateshead, so he told me that we baskin the Ma'aser Adisyan Aron. And that is that he writes that it's quite clear that the hair that's in the area by the cheek, that's all the way in, that's all the way down, that is hair that we call that big hair. What's the biggest right that the Adaran brings? Again, pulled down in the Bach. Then he says that a child doesn't have it. A child will only get it a little bit older when it comes bar mitzvah, a little bit younger, older, depending on the maturity of the child. But generally, it's hair that comes later. And therefore, it's our raya, says the Adaran, put down in the Bach L'Maisa, that hair is not nichal in the Peyas HaRosh. Now again, the person has to be careful. Shulchan Aruch said, "B'chol goyichav lo yigav b'seida." And al kapon in the area that's over there, unless the person has a meaning otherwise, al pi alocha, and Kakos Maske Rafalk Shlita, is that area is not included in the Peyas HaRosh, and therefore you have no issue with that. One of the other shaylas, which is a famous shayla in Rekiva Eiga Ki Yadua, in Shavuos, that base on the base, where Rekiva Eiga asks the shayla whether or not a person is allowed to comb the payas. What's the shayla? The shayla really goes like this. Ki Yadua, the Gemara in Nazir, the Gemara tells us about a Nazir combing his hair. Whether a Nazir is allowed to comb his hair or not. The shayla is a psik reisha, shayla on Shabbos. The Shulchan Aruch, so Simon Shin Gimel, that talks about combing the hair on Shabbos. We know it's an Issa L'Oraisa, where it's a psik reisha. So the Chassam Sofer as well deals with this in Yeridei Simon Reish on the test. The Chassam Sofer says, and he brings a shayla, somebody asks him if you're allowed to comb the payas, if it's a psik reisha for an Nazir, if it's a psik reisha on Shabbos. So if a person combs his hair in the area of the Peyas HaRosh, so the chayritz, if it's a psik reisha, he's over it's a gavaldik tshuva, and I'm not going into all the details of the tshuva. But one thing that the Chassam Sofer writes, the first thing that Chassam Sofer says is it's mutter. How do I know it's mutter? Because my Rebbe Reb Nosson Adler did it. So if my Rebbe Reb Nosson Adler did it with Chassam Sofer, it's 100% mutter. Afterwards, the Chassam Sofer's ma'irichin brings kama v'kama rayas to say that it's mutter. There's no issa for a person to comb his hair, even the mokum of the Peyas HaRosh. And one of the last shaylas is plucking of the hair. The plucking of the hair is a problem. Once again, we're dealing with, obviously, with the Peyas HaRosh, we're dealing with the mokum that we've decided, and we've said quite clearly, is nichla from the imaginary line on the top all the way down, is including the Peyas HaRosh. So the shayla is of plucking the hair. Now there's come a poskim that go either way. If a person should, if he shouldn't. Rabbi Zvel Orbach Shlita told me clearly to tell the Olam that he said that lechatchila it should be avoided, but it's hard to say that it's mamish asa. Okay, it does depend. Again, once again, there's a machlokes about a person has to be careful. But one thing we can sum up from these halachas, and we can say very, very clearly that we know a hagdorah. Number one, we know a shear. We know a minimum shear, what's considered to be under a issa, what's considered to be nichlan in the issa of Peyas HaRosh. We also know, more importantly, we know what's considered to be the Peyas HaRosh. We know what it means, the different corners from the top, all the way down to the ear, all the way down to where the lechi atachton yotzeh misbared sham. That's the issa of L'Oraisa Kifa, and a person has to be careful. As we mentioned from the beginning, this is something that we have a koyach. This is something that we the Maisa can affect. Somebody came to the Chovetz Chaim and they asked the Chovetz Chaim Rebbe, there's someone in Shtot, there's someone in the town, it's being Mechal Shabbos. Please tell him how to not change. He had a factory with melting metal. Oh, ganz a show him, tell him how he can do it. The Chofetz Chaim said, no, he knows how to do it better than me. But if you give someone the chashivas, if you give someone the importance in the matter, if you give someone the understanding to what you're dealing with, then they have a different look. Be'ezah Hashem, from learning these halachas, from understanding these halachas, from looking at the Sefer afterwards to see, and all the different protim and marakomis that we mentioned tonight, we should be zoicha to make a change in Klal Yisrael, the koyach within us. We could change it in the Zakir Rabbah, a tremendous Kiddush Hashem. Once again, a tremendous HaKoros HaTorah to Torah Projects Institute for making this wonderful, wonderful Kiddush Hashem. We should all have the schus. Thank you for listening.